Yo! Popular YouTuber and someone whom I occasionally enjoy, Thunderf00t, recently made a video with the intentionally ironic title, Teach Them Not to Rape, in which he expresses his issues with the common sentiment that instead of telling women to take precautions to prevent rape, we should tell men not to rape. You should probably watch his video first, as this is a response to that video. Now, Thunderf00t thinks that feminists, or whoever, are saying that we don't teach our children not to rape. And some feminists do seem to think that, and I agree with Thunderf00t in that it is not true. Rape, in our culture at least, might actually top the list of shit people hate. What we may not be teaching our sons and also daughters is the full extent of what constitutes rape. Now, the term rape can be very broad, and I think that people are often intentionally disingenuous when they compare like violent sexual assault with other forms of sexual coercion. The fact of the matter is, it's all rape, and it's all fucked up, and it's all potentially psychologically damaging, and it all shouldn't be happening. In general, I think for now we're talking less about the insane Ted Bundy types because most people agree that that's super fucked up. I think we're more so referring to the guy at the bar, or the guy at the frat party, or even sometimes the guy that lives with you. And some, not all or even most, but some of these guys have some very weird ideas about what's okay to do to people. And yes, I do think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they were never taught any better. Anyway, in his video, Thunderf00t uses the analogy of having a lock on your door and saying, don't tell me to lock my door, tell them not to rob. And he argues that this statement is equally absurd to the one about rape. But I don't really think that's absurd either. I think that's a legitimate thing to say. And I'm sure Thunderf00t would agree that it would be better if we didn't have to lock our doors. But it sounds like what he's saying is that there's a lot of rape that wouldn't have otherwise happened if women took certain precautions beforehand. And that's mostly bullshit. You see, when you lock your door, you are physically preventing someone from entering your house. It's not a psychological deterrent. It's not a suggestion. It is literally a physical obstacle. Rape doesn't really work like that. He spends a great deal of time talking about body language and about how predators only attack those who express vulnerability. It's as if he's never been to a seedy dive bar before. Yo, Thunderf00t, let me tell you a little something about creepy motherfuckers. They don't give a fuck about your body language. They don't care what you say. They don't care what you're wearing. They don't care if you're wearing headphones. They don't care if you're pumping your gas at your gas station. I also want to clarify the point about predators. I think anyone who does any kind of sexual assault or sexual coercion is a bad person, but don't get me wrong. These are not always psychotic Ted Bundy types. Sometimes they're just random people with no home training. To some extent, I agree with Thunderf00t's point about drinking and how it is your choice to get drunk and how you are still responsible for decisions that you made even if you were drunk when you made them. And I don't really even have a problem with drunk people hooking up as long as they take responsibility for their actions. But this is why sexual coercion can often be included in the definition of rape. Because when you're drunk, you have impaired judgment, and everyone knows that. Even other drunk people know that. So if you're a dude and you're intentionally getting a girl drunk, or you're intentionally taking advantage of a girl just because she is drunk, just because you think it would be easier to get a drunk girl into bed than not, you may very well think that's not rape, but it is. Basically, look, if a drunk girl wants to have sex with you, that's fine. Go ahead. But if you're preying on a drunk girl and getting her more drunk and pressuring her and taking advantage of the fact that she can't make informed decisions currently, that's fucked up. And if you want to talk about vulnerability, most women are smaller and less strong than men. That is an inherent vulnerability that is beyond their control. Yet another thing that Thunderf00t overlooks is the fact that women do take precautions all the time. Everything from bringing friends with them when they go places so they're not alone, to straight up running away from threatening people. I've known women to intentionally make themselves less attractive when they go out so they don't have to deal with weirdos. And the funny thing about it is this type of shit barely even works. They still get followed, they still get catcalled and inappropriately touched. Thunderf00t talks a lot about sending mixed messages, which is kind of offensive to people who've been raped, but I suspect that a lot of these mixed messages are women smiling or being friendly, you know, like decent human beings do, even when they're not inviting you to fuck them. Interestingly, Thunderf00t sticks to the stealing metaphor and doesn't really talk about murder, which I think would be a more fair analogy, because murder is also a thing that you can't simply put a lock on a door to prevent. So how would you you reduce your chances of being murdered, realistically? Maybe not going to bad neighborhoods? Well, I grew up in a bad neighborhood. Lots of people did. Lots of my friends and family did. I would wager that the vast majority of people who have found themselves in a bad neighborhood did not get murdered. So were these people just lucky, or maybe it is that going to bad neighborhoods has a negligible effect on your chances of being murdered? Now, clearly there are places and situations in which murder happens more often than other times, but the ratio of not murder to murder is so disproportionate that saying something like, don't go to bad neighborhoods if you don't want to get murdered, is much less helpful than just telling everyone not to murder. See, it's not like going to a mountain lion habitat. When you do that, you knowingly have to be prepared in case a lion attacks you. Being murdered is a thing that is unprecedented, a thing that the majority of people aren't, can't, nor should be prepared for. And it's the same with rape. He does show this condescending Wonka meme with the caption, teach men not to rape, and how's that teach people not to murder thing working out so far? And this echoes what I think is one of the main points of Thunderfoot's video, namely that emphasizing things like teaching men not to rape is unhelpful because rapists are gonna rape anyway, much like murderers are gonna murder anyway, so you might as well take precautions, right? Well, Mr. Wonka, if I may, the whole teach people not to murder thing is actually working out alright. In fact, the murder rates in the US and the UK are the lowest they've been in a long time. And this is due largely because A, it's much harder to get away with murder than it used to be, and B, we've done a good job of encouraging people not to kill each other. So let's do the same for rape and sexual assault. Now, I have my own issues with the buzzwords and hyperboles associated with the modern feminist movement, and I'm not going to accuse Thunderfoot of victim blaming. I don't think any normal, non-crazy person would blame someone for being raped. And I think it's a bit obnoxious that people assert that they would. As an aside, victim blaming does occur, particularly in the media, but I would strongly suggest that the media does a very bad job of portraying the reality of our culture, as evidenced by the fact that the murder rate has dropped drastically, but that's not something you would know if you based it on the media. That's kind of a topic for another video. But I still find it kind of offensive and dismissive and just ignorant of how and why rape occurs to say that what you say and what you wear increases or decreases your chances of being raped. Just like murder, rape is unprecedented. It's not something that anyone is or should have to be prepared for. But even if wearing a skirt, or as the page from the National Institute of Justice that is featured prominently in Thunderfoot's video suggests, going out on weekends, even if those things increase your chances of being raped, doing them still in no way means you are inviting rape or that you deserve to be raped. You can't justify rape. You can't give reasons for rape. The rapist cause rape, and that's it. I've heard and maybe even used in my past the metaphor of wearing a meat suit and then complaining if a dog attacks you. But people are not dogs. People have the ability to reason. People are responsible for their actions. You can't call a dog an asshole because it's just following instinct. You can, however, call a person an asshole, and anyone who takes advantage of someone sexually is a huge asshole. And that's putting it very lightly. That's just me though. What should the next video be about? Drop a comment. Hopefully something lighter. I want to go ahead and give a shout out to all the new subscribers. How you doing? Please press the like button. Subscribe if you like my hair.
Holla.